In 2022, the Mexican government formally accused Shein of stealing indigenous designs. Not once, but twice. Different communities, different states, same story. But Shein isn't alone. Temu, AliExpress, they all do this. I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico right now, and I want to show you what this theft looks like up close, who's paying the real price, and why Shein continues to get away with it. Hey, it's Garrick with Eco-Stylist, and today I'm going to show you exactly how Shein steals from artisans here in Oaxaca, Mexico, so that you can understand how the problem functions globally. Shein, Temu, AliExpress, they steal designs from artisans all over the world, including in Guatemala, Peru, Mexico, Africa, India, and more. And they don't just steal designs from artisans, right? Like they also steal designs from artists, small brands, and others. The problem exists everywhere, but it's largely invisible. And usually buyers don't even know they're partaking. That's why I'm going to show you specifically how this problem works here in Oaxaca, Mexico, so that you can see how to spot it for yourself. And remember, this is not just speculation. The Mexican government brought formal charges against Shein twice, and both times Shein acknowledged their wrongdoing. The Mexican government has also called out, Zara, H&M, Louis Vuitton, and Anthropology for this as well. Shein is definitely the worst offender, but this is an industry-wide problem. Now, if you're wondering what kind of designs Shein steals from artisans here in Oaxaca, it's a variety of products, from designs for clothing, to home goods, to tapestries. For example, this tapestry right behind me. I purchased this in Teotitlan del Valle, here in Oaxaca, Mexico. Teotitlan del Valle is a Zapotec town, and so if you don't know, Zapotec are the pre-Hispanic, indigenous people of Mexico, and so I purchased this there for a price of around $200. It's completely made by hand. It can take about a month to make a piece, of this size, and even longer for bigger pieces. Some really cool things about it is like, all of the materials are natural, even the dyes, right? Which is crazy because you're gonna see like some really bright, reds and blues and things like this, but all the dyes come from nature. Like for example, the bright reds come from cochineal, which is like an insect that feeds on the cactus. And so like they use that, to make these like beautiful red dyes. And just, all of the dyes, like even the brilliant ones, especially the brilliant ones, they all come from nature. In addition to that, like I mentioned, it's made by hand, it's made on a pedal loom, and it's made by people who have been taught, by their parents, and their parents taught them, right? So these are traditions and techniques and skills that have been passed down, generation to generation through families. So when you buy a tapestry like this one from artisans here in Oaxaca, you're buying all of that, including cultural knowledge that has been passed down for centuries. But when you buy the $12 knockoff from Shein, you're not buying any of that. And unfortunately, the artisans are the ones paying the real price. But I'm not just going to talk to you about this problem from inside my apartment. Let me show you. Estoy aquí en la Casa de las Artesanías de Oaxaca con Guillermo. Y Guillermo es la gerente aquí.
¿Así es?
Y decimos más sobre ¿qué es esta tienda? ¿Es un cooperativo de los artesanías?
Así es. Bueno, la Casa de las Artesanías funciona como una cooperativa actualmente de 58 artesanos activos. Como tal, la casa no es un punto de reventa, es un punto en el cual estos 58 artesanos vienen, hacen sus obras y las vienen a exhibir aquí para que puedan comercializarse al exterior.
Ah, wow. ¿Y puedes mostrarnos un producto?
Claro que sí. Bueno, en este momento estamos en el área de mantelería, tenemos varios productos de hecho por varios artesanos, pero de igual forma tenemos este tipo de bordados. En este caso estoy mostrando un bordado que viene de Tlahuitoltepec, en la zona Mije de Oaxaca, que tiene su iconografía muy detallada, como es su sol, sus agaves y las marcas de los ríos, que es lo que ellos marcan en esta iconografía que viene de Tlahuitoltepec, Mije.
Ah, sí, muy chido. ¿Y cómo hacen? ¿Cómo hacen y como cuántas horas por hacer una pieza como este?
Una pieza como esta. Mira, depende de la técnica del artesano. Por ejemplo, puede ser por pedal, se le llama tejedora de pedales, tejedora de cintura, entre otras. Por ejemplo, una de estas podría tardar aproximadamente entre una semana a 15 días en poder llevar a cabo todo el bordado, porque este es un bordado hecho a mano. No está hecho con máquina, no está hecho con nada de lo que las grandes fábricas nos están acostumbrados a regalar. Esto está hecho con un bordado a mano y sobre todo con historia, porque la posición de cada una de las iconografías que tenemos aquí no están improvisadas, no es porque se vea bonito, es por el simple hecho de que así lo viene marcando desde un ancestro, desde un tema ancestral que viene de generación, de papá, abuelo, hijo, etcétera.
Ah, wow. Y puedes mostrar a nosotros como diseños como este que tú ves copiar en Shein.
Claro que sí, hemos visto, hablando con los colaboradores de aquí, que es el corazón de la casa, nos han comentado que han visto diseños en Shein robando este tipo de agave o flores, como le dicen ellos, que lo han apropiado, por decirlo así, descontextualizado, porque no es lo mismo algo que viene desde el llanto, del sudor y el sufrimiento de un padre o una madre artesana, a que uno que viene de una fábrica que son con puros intereses económicos.
¿Eso es un ejemplo también?
Esto es un ejemplo también que tenemos. Igual, la región, si no estoy mal, viene de San Juan, Colorado, si no estoy mal. Me van a comentar si estoy en un lado equivocado, pero de igual forma, la técnica que se usa aquí es un bordado que puede tardar entre 15 días a un mes, o sea, en sacar solamente una pieza. Entonces, son detalles que se tienen aquí en este tipo de bordados. Igual, la iconografía es específica, no se necesita máquina, no se necesita ya una carátula establecida. El artesano tiene que buscar la forma de que sea simétrico desde el punto de vista de sus propios ojos. No tiene como una guía. Él mismo va desarrollándola con su propio conocimiento. Por eso en Oaxaca se les llaman maestros artesanos.
Increíble. Wow. Hey, is this video helping you to understand how Shein steals from Indigenous people and vulnerable communities all over the world? If so, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. Y cuando Shein como copiar diseños como este, ¿cómo este impacto como su tienda, por ejemplo?
Sí, impacta demasiado. Como te decía, un artesano tarda demasiado tiempo, invierte su esfuerzo, su llanto, su dolor, su hambre en realizar cada uno de estas, yo les llamo arte, todas estas piezas que ellos hacen, sus obras de arte, tardan mucho tiempo para poder ofrecerlas al mundo en un precio que para el artesano es justo, porque tiene que gastar en su materia prima y también invertir un poco de su tiempo, que el tiempo es muy valioso. Entonces, el momento de que Shein lo replica con estas grandes fábricas y me traen este mismo trabajo en un menor precio, van a decir, lo veo más barato en Shein. Cuando el diseño no es el original, por decirlo así, no es el hecho a mano, el hecho con amor, sino hecho desde fábrica. Entonces eso repercute en nosotros, porque van a pensar que lo que realmente vende Shein es lo mejor, cuando realmente lo mejor lo tenemos aquí exhibido, que es lo que nuestros artesanos vienen desde sus casas, porque no viven aquí en el centro de Oaxaca, vienen de pueblos de 8, 9, 10, 12 horas aquí a la casa para poder dejarnos parte de lo que son ellos. Entonces impacta demasiado.
Ah, sí. ¿Y qué deseas que la gente saber sobre tus productos de artesanías?
Que conozcan que esto no es solamente un simple objeto. Esto es el llanto de una madre, la preocupación de un padre, es algo que trasciende lo material. Es una emoción, es un sentimiento, es algo que heredó el padre, que viene de su padre, que viene de su padre, y que viene de su padre, y puede que venga de su hijo, y su hijo, y su hijo. Aquí muchos de los artesanos que tenemos en la Casa de Artesanía 58 son hijos de los fundadores, son hermanos, son incluso muchos que se nos adelantaron en el camino, que dejaron su obra y dejaron a sus hijos con la misma identidad. Esto es identidad, es amor, es valor. Eso es lo que yo quisiera que la gente reconociera de los productos que vendemos aquí en su casa, que es la Casa de las Artesanías, para poder conocer la historia, no solamente vendemos un producto, vendemos
Sí.
historia, vendemos algo hecho con manos artesanas, porque son todas las manos que hacen la casa.
Sí, creo. ¿Y cómo podemos apoyar como los productos real y como tu tienda?
Visitándonos, conociéndonos, permitirnos estar en sus hogares. Tenemos demasiados productos aquí, desde manteles hechos por artesanos, barro hecho por artesanos, este tipo de indumentarias hechos por artesanos. Conózcanos, que permitan venir a la tienda, conocernos, comprar con historia y más que nada y con conciencia.
Sí. Ya, muchas gracias por compartir su tiempo
No, claro
con
que sí.
nosotros.
No, ustedes muchísimas gracias y pues esta es su casa y bienvenidos sean todos.
Gracias. What Guillermo just described is exactly what's being stolen. Now, let me show you how Shein steals. So how the heck is Shein able to steal thousands of designs every single day? Well, the way that they do it is they have algorithms scrape the internet, including scraping things like Etsy listings, marketplace photos, and even Instagram posts. And in this way, they steal designs from all over the world without ever giving credit, having permission, or giving compensation to the people that they're stealing from. If you take a walk around in Oaxaca, Mexico, go to like artisan markets, stores that sell artisan-made goods, and even the Museum of Textiles in Oaxaca, you're going to see all these signs that say no photos. And this is exactly why, right? Because even just, as a tourist who sees a design that you love and you take a picture of it, if you publish that picture on Instagram, you might have unknowingly just helped Shein steal their next design. And the thing is, these designs carry deep cultural and spiritual meaning to the people who make them and the communities from which they're being stolen, right? So this isn't just design theft, it's cultural erasure. Let's talk about two examples. Case number one, the Mayan blouse. Artisan brand Yucachulas published side-by-side photos showing how Shein copied and stole one of their shirt designs. The Shein version was sold for only $7. The brand notes that these designs are an integral part of Mayan identity. And additionally, it's an economic means of subsistence for the artisans, right? Like artisan handicraft is incredibly talented and complicated work, right? Like oftentimes these artisans have, decades of experience. They might have learned the skill, from their parents, who learned it from their parents, right? So in addition, to supporting, this tradition of craft, additionally, the artisans depend on selling their goods for survival, right? Like they need this money, to put a roof over their head, food on the table, and provide from their families. So when Shein steals designs from them, it's directly impacting their ability to survive. And it's impacting vulnerable communities. The Mexican government wrote to Shein in this case, demanding an explanation. After which case, Shein removed this one specific product and noted that they respect and celebrate all cultures. But you can't respect and celebrate all cultures when you continue to steal from them and pump out thousands of new styles every single day. Case number two, the Nahua community in Puebla, Mexico. Just like the last example, here you can see that Shein copied and stole the design of this flower engraving shirt from this community. Doing so directly harms the community economically as well as morally. It goes without saying that the artisans cannot compete with a mass-produced ultra cheap Shein version of their product, right? And from a moral and ethics perspective, why is a multi-billion-dollar company stealing from indigenous people and stealing from vulnerable communities just so that they can turn more profit? Here you have, a different community in a different state, but the same playbook. And here's the pattern. Shein continues to steal on a massive scale and nobody can keep up. In these two examples that we talked about, it required lots of effort and evidence just for Shein to remove two specific products. Meanwhile, Shein continues to steal thousands of designs every single day without accountability. In Guatemala, the problem was so pervasive that Ethical Fashion Guatemala was started to help people support artisan goods and help combat Shein stealing. Gila Cruz, an artisan from Puebla, Mexico, notes that we try to raise awareness so that people understand that our pieces are complex and have a powerful cultural meaning. So now that we know how Shein steals all these designs, let's explore why they continue to get away with it. In January of 2022, the Mexican government passed the federal law for the protection of the cultural heritage of Indigenous and Afro-Mexican peoples and communities for this exact reason. Under this law, the unauthorized commercial use of Indigenous designs can result in fines of up to 10 million pesos as well as imprisonment. But here's the trap, right? Shein's corporate headquarters are based in Singapore, all their manufacturing happens in China, and they sell globally, meaning that for a small weaving community in Oaxaca, Mexico, jurisdiction and enforcement is nearly impossible. The law exists, the will exists, but enforcement does not, and Shein knows it. Independent designers in the US had to invoke federal racketeering law, otherwise known as the RICO Act, and this is the same law used to prosecute the mafia, just to get Shein into court. If the bar is this high in the US just to get Shein into the courtroom, how difficult do you think it must be for artisans to sue or prosecute Shein? Shein operates through a complex web of multiple corporate entities, right? Meaning it's extremely difficult to prosecute because from a legal perspective, it's very difficult to identify, quote unquote, who exactly stole from you, right? And this is not an accident. Unfortunately, the problem gets worse. After Shein steals the designs, they then compete against the very people they stole from. I mentioned previously that I purchased this tapestry from Oaxaca for around $200, right? And this piece, takes weeks and even months to make something like this. When Shein makes their knockoff version, they sell it for $12 and they end up showing up higher in Google shopping results. For a customer who doesn't know the difference, they just buy the cheaper one and the artisan loses. To give you some examples of this, in Argentina, the textile industry fell 20% in the same year that Shein Temu were soaring. Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina are all drafting anti-Shein laws to protect their local workers. But here's the Mexico plot twist. In 2025, the US closed the de minimis loophole. And this was the tax loophole that allowed Shein and Temu to flood the US market with cheap Chinese goods, right? And so now that the prices have raised a little bit in the US market, which market do you think Shein is going after next? Mexico. Right? So first they steal the designs, then they undercut the artisans in Mexico, and now they're going after the customers too. Shein targets communities who can't fight back. This is not just unfair competition. This is economic violence against some of the world's most vulnerable people. Now, in addition to all the injustice that's happening to artisans and indigenous people, customers are not winning either. And that's because the imitation product from Shein is not the same. It's a different and dangerous product. In a 2025 study by Greenpeace, they tested over 50 pieces from Shein, and 32% of those pieces exceeded safety limits for dangerous chemicals, right? If you want to know more about the toxicity of Shein clothing, I talked about it extensively in my video on how Shein's business model works. So if you'd like to learn more about that, I'm going to have that video linked here in the cards for you. But to summarize, the Shein imitation product is usually made with synthetic fabrics, often contains toxic chemicals. And if you compare that, to this artisan tapestry that I bought in Oaxaca, it's natural materials, natural dyes, handmade, right? So these are not equal products at different price points. These are not the same product at all. For Shein to be successful, we all have to be complicit in this problem. And here's how that works. The algorithm shows us cheap products and we click, right? And that's not an accident. That's by design. Most people genuinely don't know the difference. But this is not about consumer guilt. Shein deliberately obscures these connections so that we don't think about it and we just buy the cheaper product. But now you know, and knowing changes the equation. So how can we fight back against Shein and support authentic artisan-made goods? Well, here's 3 options for you. Number 1 is if you're traveling, support local artisan-made goods where you are. Right? So obviously you can support artisan goods, all over the world. Some places I've been where, there's especially vibrant communities around this and just amazing products would be like Oaxaca, Mexico, in Chiapas, Mexico, as well as Antigua, Guatemala. But there's places, all over the world where you can find great artisan-made goods. Now, speaking specifically about Oaxaca, Mexico, as an example, some places where you can do this in person would be like there's outdoor markets, local markets. There's lots of stores that sell artisan-made goods. And even the Museum of Textiles in Oaxaca, Mexico sells a curated collection of artisan-made goods Now, worth noting, while supporting artisans in person is arguably the most difficult option, right? Because you have to travel to one of these places, it's also definitely the best option. You're going to find the most, variety of artisan goods, and you're going to find like really incredible things, and if you're ever in doubt, you can ask them in person, to learn more about like, how the product's made and where it's sourced. And they're usually like very happy to tell you, and you can learn more about that story. Option number 2 is going to be online. Now, to be honest, regarding artisan-made goods, this can be a bit more difficult. You're definitely not going to find the kind of options that you're going to find in person, but it can still be a great choice. For example, La Casa de las Artesanías in Oaxaca, Mexico, where I was earlier and interviewed them in their store. That's a great way that you can support online, right? Like they have a website. Also, Ethical Fashion Guatemala that I mentioned, that's another website. So I'll have information for you in the video description if you want to check these resources out. You can also find more resources online. Just be cautious to make sure that it's, authentic artisan-made goods that you're supporting. Option number 3 is obviously you can go to Eco-Stylist Sustainable Brand Guide to support ethical and sustainable brands. But let me highlight a few brands where you can specifically support artisan-made goods. So the first one is going to be Eco Persona. They source artisan goods from Mexico, Colombia, and Peru. Another great Eco-Stylist certified brand to check out is going to be Atavio, which I made an entire video about on our channel if you want to check that out. I'll also have that linked for you here in the cards. But Atavio is a Oaxaca-based brand founded by 2 women who make most of the clothes themselves. So that's going to be a great brand for you to support as well. A third brand is going to be Adelante Shoe Company. These are handmade leather shoes from Pastores, Guatemala. So that's another one. And fourth for you is going to be 10,000 Villages. 10,000 Villages is a great one because they source artisan-made goods from all over the world, right? So that's definitely one that's helping to bridge that gap between, like I mentioned, it's much easier to buy these products in person, but 10,000 Villages is one of the sources that's helping to bridge that gap, right? Where you can find like a curated selection of artisan goods from all over the world and support those on their website. A fifth option, which is a surprise for you, is very soon I'll be adding another new Eco-Style certified brand from Oaxaca to the website. So stay tuned for that. Keep a lookout for it. That's going to be another great way for you to support artisan-made goods. Now, obviously, it's going to cost more money to support authentic artisan-made goods, right? So you may be wondering, like, why pay extra money to support these goods over the Shein ripoff knockoffs, right? Well, if we didn't cover that extensively in this video, a few great reasons are you're supporting, fair wages, you're supporting authentic craft, as well as you're supporting artisans all over the world. And wouldn't you rather give your money to artisans than to some billionaire in Singapore? Now it's your turn. Have you ever bought something that turned out to be a copy of an artisan-made good? Or have you ever found a brand that's doing this right and supporting real artisan craftsmanship? Let me know down below in the comments. I read every comment. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, dress like you give a damn. I think that's pretty good. Yeah.